Hey everybody, welcome to the show tonight. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. I've got my good buddy Javi here with me. He's going to help me watch the chat as well as help me with a few other things. Because like I said, we got a ton of stuff to talk about. Had some great questions. People either emailing me or posting on a Facebook page or something. So all you guys that have asked questions and asked for me to show you something, I appreciate that. Just a ton of stuff to talk about. First off, though, I want to remind everybody that we are, less than 2 weeks away from the Atlanta Woodworking Show. If you're planning on coming to that show, if I haven't met you before, I mean, you guys know what I look like. I may not know what you look like. If you see me there, come up and say hello. I'll be there for sure Friday and Saturday. Sundays, always kind of iffy. I really don't like to go on Sunday because, for one thing, it's only open till 3, and for another, a lot of the vendors and stuff are kind of packing up and early, getting ready to head on to the next spot. So not a whole lot going on Sundays. So let me give a quick shout out here. We got Trevor Carter, Danny Giesbrecht. I hope I said that right, Danny. Becca Miller, Corey Orell, Steve Misher, Mark Lindsay, CNC. Did I say Becca Miller already? Ron Cleveland. Cool. Got a good crowd watching already. So anyhow, okay, so we got the wood show in less than 2 weeks. I'll be spending part of the time at the Southern Woodworkers booth. They're going to have another booth there. And in fact, Zach Manring has asked me to talk about something CNC Saturday at 4 o'clock. So come by. If you're there at the show, come by and hopefully I'll figure out something to talk about CNC. I'm sure I can figure out something. Also want to give a quick shout out here. I met a nice young man this past Wednesday. Chris Burton. He brought me this cool t-shirt, and I also have his sticker right there. Now you can't see those stickers real great because of the lighting of the shadow. But thank you very much, Chris. If you're watching, appreciate the t-shirt and the sticker. Let's see. I had to make notes to make sure I don't forget something. I think was that all I had to, the quick announcements. Javi, you got anything you want to talk about before we get going, or you might as well introduce yourself like there's somebody that don't know who you are.
Good evening, one and all. My name is Javier Unzueta, Javi from Javi's Woodshop. And no, I don't think there's anything else, Dave.
Okay. I think that was it. Like I said, we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. I got the new Xylotex, whatever their new plug and play thing is. You can see I haven't even opened the boxes yet. I thought I'd save that for the show. I'll open them up and show you what's in there. And if anybody's got any questions or something, you can ask about that. Although, you know, I'm not really going to be able to comment yay or nay on how great it is because I haven't got it hooked up yet, obviously. So, but I will either be talking about it on a show or maybe do a video or something about it. But anyway, we're gonna get that opened up in a few minutes. We're gonna talk. And I'm glad to see some of the guys over there in the chat. I saw Landis Stoots. We're going to try to answer a question he had. Jerry Bonifield, I answered him a little bit with an email, but we're going to try to go over the UC 100 again. I hope Jerry Brown's out there because he was asking about limit switches and homing switches and soft limits and that kind of thing. So, you know, if we get a chance, we'll cover that. And let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, we're going to talk about that Acorn centroid controller a little bit. And I guess, well, there's a couple other things too. But anyway, we'll get started. We're going to open up these boxes first. Let me see if I can tilt this camera around that way just a tad. This one, I'm pretty sure the motors are in it because it's the heaviest one. So, Probably won't be anything too exciting with that. If anybody's wondering too, this, you know, I hate to do prices. I always hate saying what my prices are of stuff on a video because people watch it years later. But just so you know, this was $350 is what he had on his website, and I think it was 30 bucks shipping. You know, he sends it two boxes, priority mail, so $30 shipping. So total of $380. So still less than what his old kit was, although you know there's no controller. And just as I thought, this is the same. I'll go ahead and open one of these up here real quick. Also, while I'm doing this, I wanted to mention something. I meant to talk to Javi about it before we went live, and then I forgot. Yeah, these are looks like the exact same stepper motors as before, 425 ounce. This is the box with the power cord and the 3-foot parallel cable, just like before. We'll move this one out of the way. But no, something I wanted to mention. I saw something on Facebook the other day, and I don't think it's available just yet, but I can't wait till it is. But I saw somebody say on Facebook, and then I went and clicked on YouTube and did some investigating, and apparently it's something that's coming. I don't think it's here yet, but they said that when they're going to change it and have the live streams where once it becomes a video, you'll see the chat. Had you heard that, Javi?
Yes, and I actually thought that was already a feature. So I heard about that about a month ago. I'll look into it, but yep, I did hear about that.
Well, if you look into it and find out before I do, if there's something that I have to go click a box or check, you know, do something to get that to work, I just assumed it was going to be something that's automatic, that you don't really have to do anything. And once they start doing it, it's there.
Right.
know.
You could do it now if you have a streaming service like OBS or anything and run that way, but that gets a little bit, that's not as easy as clicking a button.
Yeah. Well, it was my understanding it was going to be with the Google Hangout thing. Okay, guys, I've got this other box open, and this does look quite a bit different than what we're used to seeing. Let's see if I can get it out of here. Well, come on. Well, let me pull these out. Maybe it'll come out of there easier. As all of Jeff's stuff is packaged very well. You know, that's pretty much a given when it comes from him. Now this is something really different. I didn't really expect this, I guess. But he has this mounted on a piece of birch plywood.
Oh.
I mean, it was like that in his picture, but I just kind of thought that maybe he did that for the picture and that you would get all this loose and have to put it on your own piece. But no, it's all...
That's convenient. All you need to do is build an enclosure around it and you're good to go.
Yeah, and I'm just going to kind of hold this up where everybody can see it here. It, you know, it's a good bit different in the other one in that, well, for one, it's probably a little bigger footprint. And now you've got 4 individual drivers as opposed to just that one board that had everything kind of built in. It's got a built-in breakout board right here. And let me show this side. It's got, you know, this kind of looks the same as before. Got the grommets where the wires come out. And again, they're color-coded, just like always. Looks to be about the same 6-foot length or so that they always came with. Power switch, place for the power cord. One parallel port here. But it's actually going to the bob right here. So, And notice another big improvement. Notice he's got 3 fans, whereas the other box had, you know, 1 fan sucking in and another fan blowing out, trying to pull it across the.
Yeah. Is there an additional fan on in the power supply box?
Yes. Yeah. The power supply's got its own fan.
It's got its own fan, right?
And then you've got these 3 that are setting right here. So this is a nice little setup.
What size power supply is that? I mean, how many amps?
Let's see here.
Oh, the old one was what, 11?
Let's see if I can find a label on this thing. Of course, right when you know it, they got that tape right there.
Yeah.
I don't care about no stinking warranty. Well, I don't know if I can get it off.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think it's the tape Jeff put on there. This is something I think they put on there. But why they put it right over that other label is stupid. Well, nuts. Hold on.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm thinking it might, because of these drivers that he's using now, I'm thinking it may be.
I'm taking a look here to see on his site.
It says 48. Okay, I got it now.
Yep.
48 volt, 7.5 amp.
Okay.
So
yeah, it says a 4-axis 4-amp drive system, but clearly you can't put 4 amps on each one at the same time.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 48 volt, 10.5 amp.
Yeah, okay. It's the same power supply as before. Okay,
right.
Gotcha. Roughly like an 11 amp.
Yeah. So I haven't been watching the chat. Has anybody got?
I'm looking to. Mark is asking if there was a brand name for the drivers. I'm
looking, and I don't see one, but you'll notice. I keep forgetting the camera's up here. You'll notice there's a healthy heat sink on each driver.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
yeah, that's important.
As long as in fact, there's even a heat sink right there on each driver.
Yeah.
Over that, whatever that is, a chip or something under there. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. But one's the processing chip, the other's the power chip. That's good.
Yeah. So, like I said, I obviously can't give any reviews or anything yet because I haven't hooked it up. But first impression, it's pretty good. Really like the way he's got this.
Yeah.
And actually, this breakout board, I think I like it better than the one I've been using because where you put the wires, it seems like it has a bigger slot for the little screw.
Right.
I've been having to use one of those little tiny screws or screwdrivers.
Yeah, and you worry that you turn. Yeah, you could strip it. With
I even
too much pressure.
Kind of file the edges of the screwdriver to get it to fit down inside there because it's so small. But this looks pretty good.
Neil believes they're Toshiba 6600 drivers.
Okay, I'll take your word for it, Neil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Now, of course, there's, right there on each driver, there's your little dip switches and things. Yep. But again, this is a plug and play. Jeff's got it ready to go. Other than having an enclosure, around this, and of course the different drivers, it's as far as the plug and play part, it's pretty much like he had before.
Yeah,
you just plug up these wires, plug it in.
Todd was saying they look like lead shine drivers. No, they're not. They don't have the enclosure or anything.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they don't look like the lead shine or the stepper
or the Chinese knockoff lead shines.
Yeah, the stepper online, the DM 542 or whatever it is.
Yeah. They were asking if Corey was asking if the shaft on the stepper motors was completely round or does it have a flat side for a?
They've got the I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're the D shape.
Okay, sweet.
Got the little flat on there, and it's got the little shaft on the back too.
It's funny. It's funny that he asked that question because I've got, as you know, Dave. I'll share with the others. I decided on my vertical CNC to put the chain, a very small, a number 25 chain, to link both of the Y motors together, just for an extra precaution, just so it doesn't rack. It's not going to help it any. It's not going to prevent it from stopping if it's jamming up. But the nice thing about it is they'll be synced. They'll be forced to be synced. They're synced now, and I hadn't even thought about that, of looking at my I've got the same motors, and I hadn't even thought of looking at it because I'm about to put some gears on them, and it's really nice having the D shafts on there.
I'm pretty sure. Let me check this label over here real quick. Yeah, these are exactly the same steppers as he was using before. So
yep.
Nothing at all has changed about those. So, okay, so there we have it. We've got the new plug and play Xylotex 4-axis kit. Has anybody got any questions? If not, I'll move it out of the way. Any fuse on that unit? I don't see one. No, I don't see one, but that don't mean there's not one in there. Like I said, Jeff makes these things plug and play, all ready to go. So you really shouldn't have to. He's already got all the dip switches and everything set. You really shouldn't have to do much of anything to make it work. Yep. Okay, no questions. I'm going to move this out of the way. And we'll move on to something else. Okay, now then, the fuse would be in the power unit. Yeah, I think if there is one, that's probably where it's at.
Yeah, there's actually two. I've looked at mine. There's two. It's the same power supply. There's two fuses in there. They're pigtail fuses and they're permanent. So, but cut them and resolder. It's not likely that they'll go. And
right. Okay, let's see whose question we want to take next. I have not seen Jerry Brown out there in the chat, so we're going to hold off on his question. Rick Nolan says, "What enclosure am I going to use?" I'll probably just make something.
Yep, plywood. Yeah. Works for me.
Or, I mean, you guys see how I'm doing this other one over here. I mean, I've got the plastic box for the Xylotex, but everything else is just mounted to a board over there. So nothing super fancy. But I'll probably just build a box, put a bigger fan, bigger fan on the main box. Well, I mean, I already got a nice piece of birch plywood to build around, so just make it simple. Yes, David, it was color coded on the cables. Just like always, red for X, green for Z, yellow for Y, and blue for the A axis, which in my case gets slaved to the Y. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to start with one of the first questions I got. Like I said, Jerry Bonifield, I think I saw him out in the chat earlier. Hey, Carl, how you doing, buddy? Jesse from JJ Wood Shops out there. I got this question emailed to me the other day from Jerry Bonifield, and he says, I have a question about the UC100. Can you explain the benefits of using the UC100 in Mach3 configuration versus not using the UC100? I have an older Dell computer with Windows XP that has been refurbished. Will it work? I'm thinking about it on the new 24x36 GarageWorks. So I'm going to exit out of this real quick. Mine is right here. I just keep it plugged into my, I'll go ahead and pull all this out so I can show. When you get the UC100, this is what you get. It comes in a little box like this. You get this part right here, and you have a small, I guess you call that a USB plug. I'm not sure what that mini USB, I guess is what it's called. And then you have this USB. So here's the deal with the UC100. And just so I could try to give them a little bit more intelligent answer, because I'm not an electronic guy, I looked up UC100. And here's the deal with the UC100. When you're running that parallel port with one of these older computers, and I'm not knocking them, I ran one for years and they work okay. Anyway, you know, the parallel port or the pulses and the directional signals that are being sent to communicate with the stepper drivers and all that, when you're using that parallel port, you're counting on your computer and Windows to generate those, and they're not consistent. But when you use a UC100, I just dropped all my papers, it takes all that away where it's not doing it by the computer and Windows. Now it's all doing it on a board that's inside here. And if I can just hold this up, maybe y'all can see this. Yeah, I think y'all can see that. See, this is like a picture of this thing with the cover removed. So it's got that little board in there. I mean, all in this little bitty thing, it's a CNC motion controller. So now it's taking over the stuff, and you don't have to worry about having an old, slow computer or something like that. If you really want to get technical, and I'm not going to sit here and read a bunch of technical jargon to you, go to the UC100 and print this out. It's, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 pages, something like that. But that's basically, you know, what it does. It you know, and of course the other good reason for using this, and probably one of the most important ones, parallel ports are going away. You know, you can't buy anything new anymore that has one. And you could put a PCI card or something in there, but you know, it's a whole lot better to use these. Mm-hmm. I've been saying for a long time, before I even knew really what the big difference was, all I knew is when I hooked it up to this, it seemed like everything runs smoother. So like I said, I don't know all the fancy stuff, but I know what works and what doesn't. So that's what I got to say about that. Javi, you got anything you want to add about the UC100, or
no?
Pick up my papers.
No, it's definitely an advantage over the parallel port in many ways.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, if you've got an old clunker computer with a parallel port and it's still running and you're using it for your CNC, that's great. But first chance you get, you know, these things are about $110, I think. Oh, I forgot to mention, you do get a gender changer too, should you need it. That comes with it as well. But you know, first chance you get, I've been telling folks, go ahead and get one of these. Get it, you know, get the driver and get it set up and get used to it. And then that way, when your own clunker finally bites the dust, and it will eventually,
yep,
you'll be all set because you'll already know how to do this. You can bring a laptop out or any of the newer computers, and it'll run. About $110, Wayne. I think they used to be 115. Last time I looked, they were 100 and.
Yeah, I just looked. They're 110 on Amazon.
Yeah. So, any other questions about the UC100? I don't see any.
Nope. Looks good.
Smoother pulses. Yep.
Yeah, Todd brings up a very good point. That's the control of it's just an advance in technology. The old parallel ports they're simple on off gated switches or gated chips that deliver pulses, and the newer with the newer technology needed to run the UC CNC the UC100. It's a nice smoother transition, so less prone for errors. Not that there's that many errors in the parallel system, but it happens.
Yeah, and I do want to say, you know, I bought mine originally. Well, it's a long story, kind of, but you know, I was going to buy if I can say this right, the UC CNC software. Back when I was doing the CNC Day show, I was going to buy it so that I could do a kind of a review, try it out and stuff. You know, nobody sends me this stuff for free. I always have to buy it to get it. So, but anyway, so I was going to buy it. Well, I had already bought one of those UC 100s so that I could use it with Mach 3 with my laptop, because that's what I started out using in the garage. And then, Steve, I'll Javi, if you'll get that question or at least help me remember it, I'll get to
sure.
That
you got it
at the end of the show. So anyway, when I bought that UC CNC software, I already had one of these things, and you guys probably heard me tell this story before. You know, the software is like $60, and I was thinking maybe I'm just an idiot and didn't, you know, but I looked on there and I thought, wow, $60, that's great. But you download the stuff, and even after you pay $60 for the UC CNC software, it's only a demo version until you register it. In other words, until you buy one of the UC 100s, which at that time was 115. So really, you got to have both to make it work, because your UC CNC software, they give you a license file that turns it into a full-blown version based on the serial number of your UC 100 or 300 or 4, whichever one you buy. But that's how it works. Well, then I got to think, well, the UC 100 was 115. The software was 60. That's 175. That's still the same thing as Mach 3. You know, because everybody kept saying, well, yeah, that other software is only $60. Well, that's not all you got to buy to make it work. So you got to remember that when you get it. But regardless, even if you buy Mach 3, I still recommend spending $110 to get at least a UC 100, or if you can afford one of the 300 or 400, they're even better probably.
Jim was asking. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Jim was asking if his router control and limit switches will still work through the UC 100.
his
router control, the limit switches, and the router control. Well, the router control has. Well, yeah, it's. He's saying because he controls. I'm assuming he controls the router through Mach3 through the software, the speed possibly, or the on off.
Yeah.
But yeah,
everything still works through it. Let me if I can turn my camera just a little bit so you can see my board here. Okay, so I've got my Xylotex. This is the old plastic box, and right here, right mounted straight on the top of the box, you can't really see it too great from that view, but that's my breakout board, and I have a parallel cable running from one of the parallel ports off that breakout board to the Xylotex. And then I have the UC100 plugged into the other one. I got the breakout board that has the two things, parallel ports. So, I mean, yeah, but you can run limit switch. Here I've got an E-stop, I've got a touch plate, and I've got 3 limit and homing switches all on there. So, there you go. Big shout out to Wayne Jones, man. He just hit the super chat. Get yourself a coffee or a beer. Cheers from down there. Hey, glad to meet you, Wayne. I didn't know. I don't know if I've seen you on there before or not. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Much appreciated. Yeah, I don't really ever mention the super chat, and another thing I really don't ever mention either. But I'm sure most everybody knows. And I don't have any down there below right now. But on my website, I have a lot of the little Amazon links, and those are actually affiliate links. So if you want to help support me and my channel and what I do here, if you go to buy something, if you go over to that website and click on one, you don't even have to click, if you want to buy a refrigerator, you could go over to that, click on any link, and anything you buy from Amazon during that session, I don't know, what do you call it, commission, or what you'd call it. They don't call it that, but I mean, it doesn't cost you anything more, but it helps people like me out by, if you use those Amazon links. So just
Peter, I'm sorry. Peter Pozuelo was just saying that talking about the 64 version of Windows not supporting, and you're correct, Peter. It does not support parallel ports in Mach3. You got to get Mach 4 for 64-bit versions of Windows.
Yeah, which is most all of them nowadays.
Yeah. And let's see. And we still have Steve's question ready for you. And I don't know if you want to answer that now or later, the GarageWorks question.
Let me save that for later.
Yeah.
Does the UC100 allow the G code from a USB stick without hooked up to the PC continuous? Well, when I usually program stuff, I start out in my home office in the house, and the computer right down here that I use for this CNC back here, well, any of them really, I always have the computer dedicated. It's not on the internet. There's no Wi-Fi or anything working on it.
Yeah.
But I bring everything out on a little USB stick, flash drive, I get, or whatever you want to call those things. And, I have to put it in the computer, and I could run it straight off the flash drive, but I never do. I always copy.
Yeah.
And move it.
I've had issues. I've had issues in the past with computers, and there's been a lot of reported issues. You're basically playing Russian roulette if you run a large program, or sometimes even a small one. If you run large G code directly from a USB, I mean, you have to have a very fast computer. And when you think about it, the USB is nothing more than an extra input-output source, and a slow one, compared to the hard drive. And if you don't have all that information queued up, one little gap in time, that's all it takes for the program to lock up. So I really recommend you never running directly from a USB stick. You should always take you. I mean, obviously, that's what you use it to transfer, but drop it straight into your hard drive and run it straight off your hard drive, regardless of. I think the original question was if being that it's more efficient, would it run off the USB stick? It matters very little.
And there's no place to plug your USB stick into that UC100. You still have to plug it into the computer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just because it's a smoother connection on the parallel side has nothing to do with the flow of information coming in from the program, from the G code. That's a completely separate input source, and I would highly encourage you never to use a USB stick to run a G code program off of.
A couple other questions I want to catch real quick. Matt Peel, super chat is that down at the bottom of the chat, there's a $ thing. And it's basically a way for you to make a donation. You just click on that and follow the steps. I've done it a few times for other folks. And the other thing, Todd at HCNC, yes, you can run Mach3 on Windows, 64-bit Windows.
Mach3,
if you're using,
yes, like if you're using a UCNC or if you're using USB,
basically
or an Ethernet, yeah, but possibly an Ethernet, but not through the. It's quirky.
You can't run Mach3 old school with a parallel port with a 64-bit.
Right.
You can use, Windows 7. You can use a 64-bit version or a 32-bit. The 32-bit will work fine with the parallel port. The 64-bit won't. Let's see. Any other questions? Dave Mitchell, how do you add a fifth rotary axis, or a fifth/rotary axis when using a 4-axis Silatex kit? I'm gonna hold off on that question. We'll answer that. I've done a video. When you say, well, I'll hold off.
Yeah, it's not really a fifth axis, but yeah.
Well, we'll answer the questions we got first. Then, okay.
I have it on the queue.
Okay, good. And we've got an awesome crowd now. We got like 87 folks watching now, so we're gonna hang around until we get to all your questions here. Another question I got, actually, this guy sent a link asking my thoughts on using this controller for the Gatton CNC. And what he sent me was a link to the Acorn centroid. I'm going to hold this up. I printed it off, but I don't know how well you can see it. But it is a 4-axis. Let me put my glasses on because when I printed this out, it's called Acorn CNC controller, a CNC hardware and software kit. A do-it-yourself 4-axis CNC control board for use with mills, lathes, routers, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah, you could use it. I mean, it shows you all the stuff. Like I said, it's 4-axis. It's got, it uses a touch screen. That's a big plus in my book. You can, hook up all kinds of, limit switches and all that kind of stuff. There's not a big deal doing that. One thing I don't see myself using it, and I can tell you why, is because this thing has like proprietary software. So when you go to use this, let's say you buy this kit, and I'm not, if I'm not mistaken, this is something that's fairly new for them. So, which means there's probably not a whole lot of folks using it. Certainly not as many folks that use Mach3 and stuff like that. So here's what I'm going to. Oh, Javi, you got it up there?
Yep, I got it up here. If you want to,
well, let me put it up there and let me present you right quick.
You got it.
You're awesome.
It's a lot of wonderful features that you can do with pretty much any controller. Oh, I mean, it's got the Ethernet, which is fantastic. It's got all the other connections. And any controller could do that. But like you said, proprietary software.
And here to me is the gotcha. And this is for Ryan. I'm sorry, Robert Riles. He's the one that sent me this. I haven't seen him in the chat, but I don't know if you're out there, Robert, or not. But anyway, when I read the fine print down here, if you need technical support with this, yeah, Hobby's already laughing because he and I've already talked about this. If you need technical support with this, now keep in mind, I'm pretty sure this is something kind of new on the block here. If you need technical support with this, you have a DIY self-service CNC support through the Centroid community, which I guess is like a forum, and it is monitored by a technician, monitored and maintained by a technician. Okay, so that's your free tech support. But if you want to purchase the optional factory direct technical support, it's $90 an hour. I didn't make that up, folks. It says so right on the bottom. I don't know. Hobby's not. If you scroll up to where the price is, Hobby, and then I don't know if you can
scroll down to the price you said, or
go back up a little bit.
Yeah.
I scroll down just a little bit to where it says add to cart. Okay, now hold right there. If you can zoom in.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can slide that
there you
over.
go.
See that where it
with
says
1 hour is $4.15 and 2 hours is $5.05. It's $90 an hour no matter what.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just saying that for my money, I prefer to use something that uses either Mach3 or UC CNC or something where there's a lot of people using it. I'm not big on being a guinea pig. I'm going to stop presenting you there.
Yep.
If you want to get off. Thank you for doing that. You know, I just saw somebody ask me something about the Masso. Where'd it go? Where'd that question go?
If you're still tinkering with it, or if you're using it on any of your machines, what are your current thoughts?
Here's the deal, and I don't know if Jat's out there in the chat or not. I haven't seen his name pop up, but I made it pretty clear to him when he sent me that. I mean, first I'm just tickled that he sent me one, and I set it up. I bought drivers. I bought stepper motors, mounted it all on a board, wired a Garage Works with limit switches and homing switches and e-stops and all this stuff so I could really kick the tires with this thing. But it didn't take me long to figure out. And because it's proprietary software, there was a lot of things I liked about it, but there was also a few things I didn't like about it. One of them, when you have to run off a USB thing. We've already talked about how that's not really a good thing to do. But you had to run off a USB thing. The other thing is when you put files on your USB thing. Now this has changed. But when I was running it, you couldn't, when you put a file on there, it had to be on the root directory on there. You couldn't put it in a folder. Like if I had, Dave CNC jobs, I couldn't create a folder of that and then put the file in there because it wouldn't find it. It had to be on the root directory. They have since changed that. So that's better. They have added some other USB ports, so you can now use a mouse. Before you couldn't use a mouse. It was all keyboard shortcuts and that kind of thing. So they've made a lot of great improvements to it, but there's still one thing. Yeah, y'all quit that dadgum yawning. Javi, are you muted?
You're still presenting me, Dave. Yeah, sorry, I was muted.
Oh, was that what you were trying to say? I thought I turned that off.
Yeah, no, I thought I wasn't. That's what they're trying to say. I thought I wasn't on. That's why
I turned it off. Okay, hold on. There we go. Okay. Well, everybody got to see your beautiful face there for a minute.
Oh, joy.
Okay. But anyway, they still have not done the touchscreen. And I told Jat early on that was kind of a big deal to me because I'd already been playing with a touchscreen. I just bought a touchscreen to use with Mach 3. And once you go touchscreen, you don't want to go back. This particular monitor is not touchscreen. And all the time I find myself doing this going, why isn't it going? And I forget it's not the touchscreen. I'm going to have to get another one for out here. But I guess that's coming. Like I said, they've made a lot of improvements to it. So this is kind of the long answer to your Masso question. I'm not still tinkering with it, but I will. Again, all that stuff is still mounted on the board. It's all ready to go. All I need to do is when Jat sends me the update file, I'll update, and when they make all those changes, and it's good to go. So I will be using it again in some form or fashion, either on a GarageWorks, a Gatton, or who knows what. But it'll get used again. But for right now, I'm kind of letting them get all the bugs and stuff, all these new features worked out. So any other thing going on over there? Let's see.
Nope, nothing. They're just talking amongst themselves.
Okay,
we've got those two other questions after.
Okay, yeah, let's move on. Okay, so I guess we're done with the centroid thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And if you're a brand new user and don't know anything anyway, this might be a way to go. It is only $325, but
yeah, but if
like me, an old Mach 3 user or whatever, I would rather know that if there's any question, you can get help because there's a bunch of other people using it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That won't be the case there.
Absolutely, Dave. I have, on my Cam Master, I use a program called CNC because that's the one it came with. And I built the Gatton, and I'm using Mach 3. CNC is very close. Luckily, it's close enough to Mach 3 that there's very subtle differences. But had I purchased one of these, I keep calling them toys, but I won't mention any brand names, but one of the tinier CNC toys that have their own proprietary software with very, very little support, I would have been completely lost. I was still semi-lost when I originally bought the machine because I didn't have the support that Mach 3 does. Mach 3 and Aspire software, rather Vectric software, is the most common and most widely used amongst the community, the CNC community. Yeah.
Peter Pasquello's out in the chat. Hey, Peter, how you doing? He makes an excellent point. There's safety in numbers when it comes to troubleshooting. So more people that are using the same thing that you're using, the more help you're going to get. So there you go.
Yep.
All right. Jeff, I'll get to your question too in a little bit here. We're going to try to get some of these other questions answered here. Let's see. Hobby, shall we do the maintenance thing next?
Sure. Let's go for that one.
All right. Landis Stutes, I saw him out there in the chat earlier. Landis, I hope you're still out there. He had asked or put a comment, I guess, in the Facebook thing about talk about maintenance. And I was telling Hobby, I was kind of laughing. I'm probably the worst one, to talk about maintenance because I'm the type that's like, well, that bolt fell off. I guess I should figure out where it goes. That's the kind of maintenance I do. There's not a whole lot of maintenance on the machine. I don't think, at least the ones I build, there's not, basically just kind of make sure there's no gobbledygook on the lead screws. It's going to trap a bunch of dust and stuff. Basically just kind of wipe it down.
Yeah, I have a point. I have a point on that front. If you build it per the specs, and I'm of course speaking about the Gatton CNC. If you do have that one, if you build it per specs, there's very little, if any, maintenance required. Now, if you're a person like me who every now and then figures, well, let me not put a lock washer or a nylon nut. Let me instead use a regular nut. Then you will find, as I did when I was chatting with Dave a little earlier today, as I'm practicing and running my machine, one nut just fell right off of it. And so, I mean, the point is, it's a very well designed. They're very well designed machines, and they require very little maintenance. Some people are crazy about cleaning sawdust off the machine and oiling it, and this I've yet to. I mean, with this machine that I have here, like the Gatton in the other room, I've yet to. Well, the Gatton's fairly new, but I've yet to do a single scrap of maintenance on any of them.
Yeah. Like I said, as far as the machine itself, there's not really a whole lot of maintenance to do. One thing I would recommend, since we're, well, I should have kept it over here. Everybody knows the Xylotech stepper motors, the new ones and the old ones. They all had those little Molex connectors, and they're okay. They're probably not the best type connector you could use, but I think they're okay as long as you protect them. And when I say protect them, what I like to do is take black electrical tape and start a couple inches down one side and come up, go all the way over the connection, and then down the other side, so that you completely seal it up to keep the dust out of there. Because I can tell you for sure, you'll burn one up. Probably about a year or so ago, some of you may remember I put a Facebook post where I didn't do that on my Gatton in the garage, and it got dust down in there and shorted out or whatever, and
And Dave, speaking of dust, I think that is the one piece of maintenance that I take it back. I do one piece of maintenance, which is always keep your filters and fans, and if you can, power supply and
right. Well,
dust free.
I was going to get to that. Like I said, there's not a lot for the machine. There's probably more for whatever your setup is. No matter what kind of controller you got, stuff like that. First of all, you want to keep the, heat is one of the worst enemies for electronics. So you want to keep the dust off the fans, because when they get dusty, they're less efficient, or could even clog up and burn them out where they don't spin anymore. And then you'll have some problems. So you want to make sure you've got good airflow through whatever kind of thing you got. Make sure all your connections, sometimes the connection is made where you can't really use those little screws to fasten it in. And even if you can, you want to make sure you check those, just to make sure everything's seated well. That's one of the biggest things. Loose bolts, especially on a garage works, there's a ton of different screws and stuff. It's metal, so there's some vibration and stuff. You always want to check, go around and take a quick look and see if you see anything, looks like it's worked itself loose or something like that.
Michael Chipser made his way in, and so look forward to his question.
Okay, Landis says, do you check that all 6 V bearings are free and turning, and how often do you adjust? Here's what I do, Landis. I take a real high-tech, well, it's a Sharpie is what I use. And I'll put like some kind of a mark on my V-groove bearings. And I'm assuming you're talking, when you say 6, I'm assuming you're talking on, well, you might be talking about the uprights too. But either ones, you just put a little Sharpie mark, especially the ones right there in front on the Z. And that way, at a glance, you can tell whether they're turning or not. If you see one that's not turning, it's not really doing anything. It's done backed its way off a little bit or something. So then you can tighten it back up a little bit and snug them up. I would caution folks too. I know there's a lot of folks that I'm just going to come right out and say it. You tighten the stuff too daggum tight on those aluminum angles.
Yeah.
It's got to be snug, not cranked down tight.
Yeah, and if you just get the machine, the recommendation is snug, run it back and forth full thing for a week to let it wear in, and I have not had an issue since. I mean, and I've been cutting stuff with mine, and not on camera, but you'll see it soon. And I've been running it back and forth and up and down and all over the place, and it hasn't binded at all. So
yeah, I just want to mention one or two things once again. I've mentioned this till I'm about blue in the face before, but you know, I'm not going to get into that steel versus aluminum angle thing. I'm over it. If you want to use steel, titanium, I don't care what you want to use. Go ahead and buy it and use it. I don't care. But I'm telling you, the aluminum will, you know, because depending on what type of aluminum angle you get, it may be rounded at the top, or it may be where it comes up to a point and then it has that radius that comes up like that. Either way, when you put that V-groove bearing on there and you start using that machine, that aluminum will wear and it will put a flat, a V-shaped flat on each side of that angle. Well, once it gets wore down to where that V-groove angle or that V-groove bearing is riding like it's supposed to, then you really don't get any more wear. Yep, I guarantee you on my Gatton CNC, I mean, that's, you know, pretty much a production machine. And I have way more hours than any of y'all have on it. And my aluminum angle looks fine. It's worn because it's worn with a V on each side there.
Yep. I can vouch for that. That's exactly what
that Mark Lindsay spoke of in a Facebook post the other day. I don't know if I mentioned it on that post or not, Mark. Those black marks are still there. You know, almost 2 years later. So that part of the angle has not worn at all. It's formed the way it's supposed to. And one reason why I like to use aluminum, well, a couple reasons. One, aluminum angle is always more straight and more true when you get it than steel angle is. Steel angle is made for structural stuff, not linear rails. So it's going to be more true and more straight, easier to work with. Plus, because it wears quicker, that's really what you want, because you want it to wear and get down to that V shape faster than steel will. So that's all I'm going to say. Like I said, if you want to use titanium or whatever, I don't care. But I just get so tired of people saying, well, I'm going to switch mine to steel because that aluminum is wearing, and they show a picture and it looks like a beaver gnawed on it or something. You've probably been tightening it too tight, guys. That's all I can say. So anyhow, let's move on. Oh, couple more maintenance tips. And these are things that probably everybody doesn't think of them as maintenance, but I guarantee you when you need them, they're nice to have. And that is, Hobby, do you have Mach? You don't have Mach3 open by chance, do you?
Let me see if I can get it open.
Well, not necessarily Mach3. How about Windows Explorer? Well, whatever.
I do have Mach3 here. It's
well. What I wanted to show, if you could do a screen share. If not, that's fine. Sure. I want to show folks where they can find their XML file for their machine profile.
Oh, gotcha. You mean wait? Gotcha. Yeah.
It's in the Mach3 directory.
Here, I'll.
And the reason I'm saying this is maintenance, folks, because if your computer crashes and you have to go get, you have to get a brand new computer and stuff, at least that XML file will have all the information for that machine profile.
Yep.
All your settings and everything is there.
If you wanna put me to present, I could. As you're talking, I'll navigate through the windows.
I'll present you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All righty.
There you go. Yeah. So this is you know, this, I mean, you might not think of this as maintenance, but like I said, you need to make a copy of this and put it somewhere else on a different computer, somewhere else that you can find it when you need to. Because if anything happens to your computer, you got all your settings. Another thing I would highly recommend is when you, and I'm saying this because not everybody's thing is different, you know, or the same. You might have something different on yours than I have on mine. But worst case, you should at least take screenshots of your settings. Go to Mach3, open up each little window, ports and pins, motor tuning, homing, soft limits, all that stuff, and take a screenshot and then put that someplace. Print them out or whatever. And that way you can, you know, anything happens, you can get your machine back just like you had it.
Okay, so in the Mach3 folder,
yeah,
where would it be?
Down, well, do you have well, you may not have a profile because you're on your office computer, right?
Yeah. But
you're going to have a Mach3 XML file probably in there.
Oh yeah, there's the Mach3. There's the Mach3 XML document. Yeah.
So if you create, let's say,
I actually created one called Gatton. So there it is.
Okay, there you go. So that'll have all the settings, everything, you know. And there's also a folder in Mach3 that has backup. And when you click on that, there'll be backup XMLs. All right. So if you change something,
ooh, fancy,
it's going to be a bunch of gobbledygook when you try to open it.
Yep.
But if you change something and you get your machine so screwed up that you think, oh man, I changed something, I don't even remember what I changed. You could always go grab one of those backup XMLs and move it back over to that directory.
Yep.
And be back in business. So those are things that I would consider maintenance, because these are things you should be doing and to make sure you can stay right, especially if you're using your machine to make money. I mean, Grant Clark, I just see in the chat, save a copy of your Mach license. I've got mine on 3 or 4 different places. So
yeah, same here.
So I won't lose it. You know, you end up losing that thing. Now you're going to spend, you know, another $175 or $200 or whatever. You know, they'll probably try to talk you into Mach 4 by then. Okay, so those are what I would say some pretty important things that you might not think of as maintenance. I took you off for hobby.
Okay, I was going to say if you wanted to leave me on for Chipser's, was it Chipser that? Oh no, it was Jerry Brown that was asking. Okay, never mind.
Well, you're talking about the question about the project, doing a project?
About the about soft limits and such.
Well, I was going to save that to the very end just because that one's probably going to take the longest time.
You got it.
Did you want to try to do the Larry Galt's question?
Sure. Give me a second. Let me pull it up here. Okay. What was Larry's question? Dave Mitchell had a question about the rotary axis, and Steve Misher had a question about the GarageWorks.
Okay.
I didn't catch Larry's.
We're already at 9 o'clock, so we'll let's do the one if we can real quick. Let me put you to present again. And, okay. Do you have Larry Galt's question? I'm assuming Larry's still out there in the chat. Larry, if you're out there, say something.
Got it. About Vectric.
Yeah, he wanted to know how to do like a simple 2D project to move it from Cut 2D or any of the other Vectric products, I guess. Sure. To Mach3 and how to set it up to cut.
All right.
Oh, and there was one more thing I forgot too. This is more of a troubleshooting tip than it is a maintenance item. And I've said this till I'm blue in the face too. I guess I'll say it one more time. I hope I don't offend anybody. If your machine was running perfect yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, and you walk out to your shop and you turn it on, and all of a sudden it's not running right. It's doing who knows what. Don't go check your Mach 3 settings. They don't change by themselves, people. I'm telling you. There's no such thing as gremlins. Nobody comes in there at night when you're in bed and changes those settings. So check the easy stuff first. All the mechanical stuff. If you're something's slipping, go check, make sure your couplers are tight. Make sure, kind of like the other maintenance stuff, make sure there's nothing loose on your machine. Check your parallel connections and your USB, whatever it might be. Check out, make sure all those are seated good. Check all that stuff first, because Mach 3 settings do not change by themselves.
Yeah. Larry is still here. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that one, because I see people all the time, not necessarily in my Facebook groups, the Gatton in the Garage, but some of those other ones. Somebody will post a question like, well, my machine ran great yesterday, but today it's doing this. And the first thing somebody will say is, well, you need to go change that Mach 3 setting to blah, blah. And I'm like, how did it get changed if he didn't go in there and do it? So I'm just saying, just check all the other stuff first, because the Mach 3 settings don't change by themselves. Okay, let's move on. You ready, Hobby?
Yep, ready when you are. Am I presenting there?
I think you're on there now.
Okay.
Okay, so Larry, we're going to try to show you how to. Hobby's going to draw just something simple.
Yep. Let's draw just a little box here, and let's draw just a text in there. Something easy like Larry.
Rebecca over there has a good comment in the chat. She says, or check with your husband to see if he changed any settings. So I guess if there's more than one person, it's possible. But I'm just saying, if you're the only one running a machine and it ran great yesterday, there's no reason why it shouldn't run great today. It's probably something mechanical and not, or if it is electrical, it's probably a loose connection or something. There's probably nothing to do with the settings.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So let's just say I have this file here, this VCarve file.
By the way, if I can interrupt you just a second, Larry, since we're watching Hobby do this, he does have a show on Thursday nights. What do you call it?
Learn CNC with Hobby.
And he shows a lot of the Vectric stuff, how to draw. So you might want to check him out on Thursdays if you're not already. Just
Thursday nights on Javi's Woodshop YouTube channel. Just look for one of my posts. Look on if you're not subscribed to me, the 3 dots on the right, and you could go to my channel from there. Okay, so let's say you have this file. Now, the first important thing that I must stress to everybody is there are 2 files. There is the Vectric file, which you want to save. That is the actual, all the information that you have, that you've been doing, including the various tool paths. So you save that, and that's going to be called, let's see, save it as Larry. That's going to be, if you're in VCarve Pro, it's going to be a CRV file. Likewise, in Cut 2D, I believe it's called 2D or 3D. I'm not sure what the little extension is. And if you're in Aspire, it's CRV 3D. They are interchangeable if you have the higher programs. You can save it. For instance, I could save this as a CRV file instead. But whatever the case, you have all your information. And then you have the second file, which is your toolpath. Do not make the mistake that I did when I first got on here and saved. I went and did a very, very intricate file, and I saved the toolpath, and then I wanted to change it, and I couldn't change anything because I forgot to save the actual Vectric file. So there's the first important point. So now in order to save, now we'll move on to the second file, which is your actual toolpath. And in saving the toolpath, it's right over here on this saving, you know. So remember, you've got this one on the left to save the regular the Vectric file, and this one here on the right to save your toolpath. So you click on save, you choose if you have one or many toolpaths, and what's very important is the actual post processor that you're using. Now, I happen to be using the Cam Master, but let me go ahead and do the, for the Gatton, it would be G-code, what is it, ATC inch? No, I'm sorry, G-code inch?
Actually, I use the Mach3 arcs, or it's Mach2/3 arcs inches.
Gotcha.
What I use.
Okay, so Mach2/3 arcs inches.
Not the ATC one, though. That's automatic tool change.
Right. Sorry. I'm losing myself here. Not ATC, the wrap, or do I even have it on here?
No, that. Oh, I know you have it. It should be right near the ATC one. I can't see your print, so
I'm sorry. Yeah, here it is. Mach2/3 arcs inch. Got it. Okay. And it will save it as a text file. Some of you may be a little confused because sometimes it saves it as a text file, sometimes a TAP file, sometimes XXL, ANC, PLT. Every single one of these is a G-code extension. It depends on your machine. If you're on a Gatton, it's a text file. If you're on some other machines, it's a TAP file.
I use that post processor that puts .txt at the end, but really it doesn't matter what the extension is. It'll run in Mach3. You just have to know how to find it.
Exactly. So now you'll save it, and when you save it, I mean, this is just basic file management. Save it wherever you can find it simply, and call it whatever you want to call it. So this one is going to be called Larry. It's going to add .txt on it. I save it, and I'm going to find it on my desktop. Now, here it is. So I have it on my desktop, or you could save it directly to your USB file. So now let's say you take your folder. I like to have it in two places. Number one is my particular design computer is separate from my CNC computer. So I like to have all my designs on this computer, and I will take a copy of them, throw them onto a USB, and then take the USB out of the computer and walk over to my other the controller computer, the CNC computer. If yours happens to be one and the same, you don't need to move this file at all. You have the file. You just open up Mach3, which is your next step, and run the file. It's just that easy. Hang on a second. Let me go back to now. So now that's the next step. You open up Mach3 in the computer where you just transferred the file. And again, if it's the same computer, you don't need to transfer the file. And we spoke earlier of not running it off your USB. So please don't, when you open Mach3, don't open the file off your USB. Make sure the file is somewhere on your hard drive. And you'll simply go to File, Load G-Code, look for your file wherever it may be, and where's my Larry? Oh, yeah, this is looking for a TAP file. Hang on. This is another thing. Sometimes it defaults to a particular type of file. Make sure it knows what it's looking for. So it finds the Larry file. And there it is. You see it nice and displayed. It's ready to go.
Mike Chambers, the software he's showing right now is Mach 3. Sorry, Javi, there was a question.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. So this is Mach 3, and this is well, as we were saying earlier, Mike, Mach 3 and the Vectric software is the most commonly used for CNC. There's some.
Okay, let me interrupt you for another second, Mike. The design software he was using, that was Aspire, right, Javi?
Yes. The one I was using was Aspire. Here it is.
By Vectric.
But Aspire is the $1,800 version and the top of the line of Vectric. Then you have I believe it's $700 for VCarve Pro, something like that.
Yes. By the way, Mike, where are you from? I have an uncle named Mike Chambers.
Ah.
I don't think that's him, but
yeah,
just curious.
Oh, little Dave. So, well,
I take that back. I misspoke. It's not an uncle; it's a cousin.
Yeah,
his dad was my uncle.
Well, he may well be your cousin. And so, well, this is pretty much the end. You have once your toolpath is loaded, make sure your e-stop is green. It's reset. Make sure all your Z's, I mean your X, Y, and Z's are set. You don't want to start the machine in the wrong area, and that's a whole lesson unto itself. And that's it. Hit cycle start, and you'll see the machine. I mean, I don't have this one connected to anything. This thing is just running. And let me go ahead and zoom up the spindle speed.
Yeah, Mike Chambers says he lives in Indiana. Well, that's where I grew up, so that still doesn't clear it up for me. Did your parents live on Berkeley Road? That'd clear it up. If not, then you're a different Mike Chambers.
That'd be one heck of a coincidence.
Yeah, that would be, wouldn't it?
Eagle River. So anyway, that's it, Dave. I mean, do you have anything that I overlooked, or?
I don't.
I mean, this is just the basics.
Yeah, there's Larry. This is Larry's question we were answering. There's I probably done at least a couple of different videos where I kind of take you from how to get it from up here to the computer and then to Mach 3 and cut. Yeah, I didn't think so, Mike, but nice to meet you anyway. But I can try to find a link to them. It's been a long time ago since I did a video like that, but and of course there's millions of other people that have probably done the same kind of video. So, all right, Javi. Well, if you're done, I'll unshare or unpresent you here. And
actually, I think, well, according to this, I'm presenting now.
How come this thing? Okay, wait a minute. Okay.
I don't know.
It hasn't said anything, I guess. Wait a minute. Hold on here. Stop presenting. My bad. I think I may have clicked it twice. Okay, here we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, so we're already running over, folks. We're at almost 9:20. Does anybody have any other questions? Actually, we were going to. I have not seen Jerry Brown in the chat, or Jeremiah Brown, as he's known as now. And he's the one that asked the questions, and I really don't know exactly what he wanted to know. That's why I was hoping he would be in the chat, because he just kind of put limit switches and soft limits.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm gonna try to slap together a video this week if I can to describe the basics of soft limits and hard limits and machine limits and all that, and in Mach 3. Now that we went through the fire this afternoon and got the details on it.
Yeah, Mike. We talked briefly about the centroid, Acorn centroid software earlier, so we're already over that one. Well, I tell you what, because I was really hoping Jerry was going to be on here so I could ask him what specifically did you want to know about limit switches. So we'll just take some other questions. Like we said, we're already about 20 minutes or so. Yeah. We still got those other questions.
I've got 2 or 3. Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 for you if you like.
Okay, Mark Allen.
Yep, Mark's is one.
Let's take this one real quick. It says, Dave, Mark, Lindsay, and I discussed a problem the other day. It involved the spoil board absorbing moisture and affected my levelness. What are you using, like MDF for a spoil board, Mark?
Are you in a high humidity area, perhaps? Because I mean, I'm in Miami. I've never had that issue.
Mark suggested the spoil board could be shellacked to seal it to help it resist. Yeah, but you're going to wipe that off when you skim the top, resurface it. I tell you, I've told this before. Many of you know it. Let me move the camera. I don't know why I got the camera cattywampus over here. But any of you who have watched any of my videos know that even when I did this table here, I put the T-tracks. Thought I'd try something a little different. Although I had T-tracks on the other one, I put a lot more of them on this one. And so far, I'm liking this. But I still do not use this as a spoil board. I have, and I can show you what I have. I have all kinds of stuff like
spacers. He's got, yeah.
This is 3/4 HDPE. And if those of you that know, if you've ever bought any HDPE, when it's 3/4, you can mic it and it'll be right at 3/4. It's real flat. Now this just had parts cut out of it. But depending on how big of whatever I'm cutting, I try to find, and I've got lots of this stuff laying around. I try to find something that matches the size of what I'm cutting, and then I put my workpiece on top, and then I clamp that whole thing. So even when I go through, I'm just boogered up this stuff, which is throwaway anyway. I never put a mark on my table. So now to get to your point about it being a level, if let's say I'm going to do some kind of a V-carve sign where it's really important that I start off super flat, so that all my engraving, so it's not heavy over here on one side and light on the other side. Well, all I do is clamp it down, or, however I'm going to hold it down, and I surface that real quick instead of surfacing the whole table. I just, and I know I'm probably one of the only ones that does it like that, because I always see everybody talking about surfacing their table and swapping these out every so often, and they're like, well, it's a spoil board, it's supposed to get spoiled, but I just never have done it. I've always put something underneath it, and it works great, and that's what I do.
I've never had an issue with mine. I mean, I'm of the other school, if you will. I do surface mine every now and then. I mean, we're talking a couple, 2, 3, maybe at 5,000ths at the most.
Now Todd here says, but you lose Z height.
You lose Z height on the on the material.
How much Z height do I need? As long as I don't lose enough that I can't still do what I need.
Well, he was referring to the Z height on the piece, on the particular piece. I mean, I have my spoil board has been resurfaced once every couple months tops, and I've been using the same spoil board for 2 years. there's a lot of wear on it. And if you're good with your, whether you use the paper trick or whether you use an aluminum a touch plate, you are going to make mistakes and you are going to do a few gouges. But I'll tell you, if you're the average person who learns through his mistakes, after a few mistakes, I guarantee you, you're gonna. I used to make mistakes all the time. I don't think I've put a mark on that thing in the last 9 months.
Yeah.
Because
I get that.
That's one thing I'm really careful of is the Z height.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but the kind of stuff that I cut, first of all, most of it is not that super critical. The stuff that I'm cutting that's like 2D parts, like Gatton CNC parts,
right?
I use heavy tabs, and I make sure I go well through because I don't want to have to sand as much on the other side. And I don't want the onion skin stuff because when you're making plywood, you try to cut it off, the veneer peels off.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I get all the way through. And with plywood, when you set it up there and you clamp it down, especially if it's a big piece, it may look like it's all the way down on all four sides, but it may be humped up in the middle or something. Mm-hmm. So by going all the way through, I know I'm all the way through everywhere and I don't have to worry about it. So,
yeah.
And like I said, I've been doing that forever and I probably won't change because I'm an old fart and just, I don't like change.
And so, Jeff Connor was asking, how do you attach your spoil board between your T-tracks? Glue?
I have not even glued this down yet. Well, but what I did is when I was putting this on here, I found the center line. Excuse me. And I put this T-track down. And then I did the math to figure out how to equally space these out. I had 9 T-tracks. So I was going to have 8 pieces of MDF. So I did the math to figure out how wide they needed to be. Cut them all on the table saw. And then what I did is when I put one down, I took clamps and squeezed it tight. Well, I set this down. I put the other T-track down. I put a clamp and squeeze that tight and then screw that one down. So these, although they're not glued, they're stuck in there pretty good. But if I wanted to swap them out, and I haven't even surfaced this yet. Like I said, I was going to surface it and do like everybody else does. And I thought, nah, I'm not doing that. I'll just throw a piece of stuff on there because that's what I've always done. That's what works. And like I said, I'm probably the only one that does it, but I don't care. I'll do it my way.
And if you do really care about that much precision and everything, I do highly recommend you watching Peter Posuelo's video about making sure that your bit is level in your machine, and whether you use Mark Lindsay's tramming method or what I do, which is just put a little shim to adjust any minute amount. That's one of the things. If you truly need that much precision, but I have a machine that's extremely precise, and I don't even need that much precision because the wood itself swells more than the precision that I need.
Yeah, I see Mark Allen says I have a 1/4-inch spoil board on top of my main spoil board. That way I can change it easier. So that sounds kind of like what I do, throwing something else on top. But, I don't know what to tell you about because humidity's, you may live someplace where it's really super high humidity or something. I don't know. I've never found it to be that big of an issue.
Yep.
My other machine that I've had out here in this shop I had it in this shop for about 5 years, but I had that machine about 11 years, and it had an MDF top, and you just don't get it wet.
Yeah.
It was always either in the garage or in this shop, and And I'm in Georgia, so we get some high humidity too. But I just never noticed it to be a big deal. But like I said, if I got something that I do want to make, and it's like a V carve or something, it's got to be really precise. Then I'll just put that workpiece on, and I'll surface that workpiece.
Yep,
that's how I do it.
And
right,
Steve, Steve Misher was asking that last week you said the GarageWorks kit isn't designed for a spindle. What did you mean by that? That it's not originally designed.
It's not. When I first started designing these GarageWorks, it was the X carves had just come out. Well, they'd been out a little while, I guess. And so, I saw hundreds of YouTubers unboxing videos and hundreds of YouTuber reviews where they were griping about the little flimsy belts and losing steps, and the saying, it's hell when it's well, but it's sick all the time, that kind of thing. So basically, I just wanted to design a machine that would be sturdy, but not, I wasn't trying to compete with, big Lagunas and all that stuff. So I picked the DeWalt 611 because that's what the X-Carve was using. So I thought, well, that'd be as far as seeing it cut, that'd be a fair comparison. They're using the exact same router as the X-Carve. Now, having said that, as I lean over, well, you can't quite tell what that is, but I've got a Porter Cable 690, which is
pretty much as heavy as a spindle, practically. Well,
no, the 690 is not near as heavy as a spindle.
That's the 890. Yeah.
The 7518 is the one that big Hoss. That's the one that's about as heavy as a spindle. But spindle. Remember I did a show out in the garage, and I had the bathroom scale out there, and we measured it, and I think it was
17 pounds. The spindle.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't design the GarageWorks with something that heavy in mind. I think there's one or two folks out there that have put spindles on them. All I can say is, if you have any problems, don't come to me, because it's not designed for that, and that's what I've said all along. You want to put one on there and see if it works, fine. But
whereas the Gatton CNC can carry a 260-pound man like myself.
Yeah, that's another nice advantage to the Gatton, is you can beat that thing up as much as you want, because plywood's cheap.
Yep.
You can add as many gussets or whatever to it. Although I don't have any in mine, and I run that spindle on that one in there without any issues. So
yeah, if anybody's seen my Facebook pictures, I stood standing up on top of a middle of probably what I can easily say is a safe bet is the longest Gatton gantry, because even the 4x8 machines, they use the 4-foot side. I've got an 80-inch gantry on my machine. I stood in the middle of that thing. It did not bend a thing. And I don't have any gussets or anything like that. It's just built per spec, other than the length.
I don't know. Todd is saying, is your shop air conditioned? I'm assuming he's asking me. I have a little window unit that I put in, but this is not climate controlled. I come out here. Well, the last couple of days, it's been kind of cool. I come out here and be about 40 degrees. I have been out here when it's 20 degrees. And I've been out here when it's
90 and 100 degrees,
95 and such, come out here and turn the air conditioner on, go back in the house. And so, yeah, it's not climate controlled at all, but yeah, I do have, I have a fan if it's not too super hot that I can put in a window. I got a couple of windows and some double doors on that end I can open up if necessary, but just a little small window unit is all I have as far as air conditioning. And I don't run it all the time. I don't really like to run it because it's not real great. It clogs up because of the dust, and then it'll freeze up and not work anyway. So I have to turn it off, let it thaw out, and all that. So,
did you want to get to the fifth axis question?
Well, refresh my memory.
Dave Mitchell was asking, how do you add the fifth? Sorry, I have an issue, semantics issue with the fifth / rotary axis when using the 4-axis Xylotech kit, because I always rail against this personal pet peeve of mine. It's not really a fifth axis. Although it's a fifth motor, it is on the 3rd axis.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's go ahead and take that one. I don't have my rotary axis stuff is all in the garage, but I can wing it, and I'll show you how I do it. Who was it?
It was Dave Mitchell that asked.
Dave Mitchell. Okay.
Yeah. Dave says he'll call it the fifth motor.
Well, here's what I do. First of all, if you're going to use it for a rotary axis, I would ask why you need a fifth motor. And the reason I ask that is because you mentioned Xylotech's kit, right? That's what he was talking about, the Xylotech's 4-axis kit.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going to use a rotary axis, and again, I don't have one. I'm just going to this is going to be my rotary axis, okay? This is it. It turns this way for a visual aid. The way I always did it is I had my rotary axis, and I would mount it to my table, and I would position, first you have to get your rotary axis square to the gantry, and then I would bring the what is the Y axis now forward and get it centered over the rotary axis. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody with me so far?
Yep.
Okay. Now that you've got that Y axis moved up here and you're centered, you no longer need that Y axis, because now everything you're going to do is you need an A axis to turn this. You need an X
A or Y
to turn this, go back and forth, and you need the Z axis to go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're talking about something fancier than what I'm talking about, you don't really have to buy a fifth motor. You've already got 4 of them. So you could use one of those. Now, for convenience sake, what I did is I did buy an extra motor, but the way I did it, I would just, because these things have the little Molex connectors so that you can unplug them real quick, I would take my machine, move it up here, get it centered and everything. Then once I did that, then I was done with that machine profile. So I would close it out of Mach3, open Mach3 back up with my rotary axis profile that I'd made, and I would take whichever one. Really, I like to take the blue one because that's the A, and I'm not even sure. I think it's on that side. And I would take that, and I would then plug it into the motor that I have on my rotary contraption, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Okay. So then the new profile, the rotary axis profile in Mach3 would then have an A axis, which is now set for angular instead of linear. And then, of course, I have the X and the Z.
And the Y would not be active at all in that profile, so it would not. So you wouldn't even move it or disconnect it from your machine.
You wouldn't even have the Y enabled on that profile. You would have the A, which is now in that profile. It's not going to be slave to the Y. It's by itself as an angular rotary axis, and then you have your X and your Z. So that's probably, a pretty cheap way of doing it. Like I said, if you were really cheap, you don't even have to buy a motor. If you wanted to go to the trouble of taking one off and moving that back and forth, you could. But I just bought another motor because they're not that much. But as far as the Xylotex thing, you don't have to have anything special for that. I mean, everything you already have will work.
Yep.
You just set up a different machine profile. So I hope that answers your question. And I've actually done 2 videos on this. One I did years ago where I made this really cheap, cheesy looking rotary thing out of, I think it was made out of like 1/2-inch MDF. And I stole the live center from my metal lathe and poked it in one end. And the other end, I just took a piece of wood and drilled some screws in it to kind of give it some grip. Stuck something in there, and it was just kind of to prove, kind of a proof of concept type thing. I did that video years ago, and I've since done another one, or maybe even more than one video where if you look, you'll see the Gatton CNC taking a square and turning it to round, and I'm also did like a spindle shape to it. But if you look and really study that video, the only axis that's moving is the A axis is turning, the X axis is going back and forth along the length, and the Z axis is going up and down. The Y axis doesn't move. So I don't know. Hope that answers your question, Dave.
Yep, he did. He said, thanks for the explanation.
Was there any other?
I have nothing in the queue. If anybody has any last minute questions,
okay.
I think we're good, other than Jerry Brown's, and that's going to be for another day.
Yeah, if Jerry Brown watches this video as a replay, my apologies, Jerry, but I really, because that's kind of there's a lot of different things to talk about regarding homing switches, limit switches, and soft limits. And I'd really rather just wait and do that another night, especially since we're already running over. Is there anybody out there that just really wanted to see something about limit switches or anything tonight? If not, we'll. I don't see anybody speaking up over there.
Yep.
You're very welcome, Jerry. I appreciate you. I wouldn't do this if you guys didn't come watch. So I appreciate you coming and watching. We still got 70 viewers. We're an hour and a half or so into this thing.
Yep.
Yeah, on 2 hours and still got 70 viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Danny. Yeah. See, we got another question real quick here. Can I make a rotary cut path with VCarve Pro? You can do what's called wrapping with VCarve Pro, and you can also here. Well, let's touch on this real quick.
Yeah.
With the big difference between VCarve Pro and the high dollar Aspire is you can do 3D design in Aspire. You can't really do 3D design in VCarve Pro. However, if you design in some other software like I do, I've used SolidWorks. You can use that ViaCAD or ViaCAD, however you say it. Anything that does 3D modeling, the spindle that I did, I modeled, I think it was in ViaCAD or something, and exported that to an STL, brought that into VCarve Pro, and then did that. So you can do.
It's a very simple process to take the perimeter of whatever item of whatever you're making and turn it into and flatten it and turn it into this. As long as whatever you're cutting here, when you wrap it around, this has got to connect here. So you just got to keep in mind this is going to be touching this over here and then continuing. I mean, there's lots of techniques and programs
that they make those. What is it called? Barley twist or something like that? Is that what they call them?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you know, you can
ropes
make
and
those
barley
with
twists and all that.
There you can wrap text around the cylinder.
Yep.
There's a lot of things you can do. You know, people say, "Well, man, that V-Car Pro, that's $700," but man, you can do a lot of stuff with it. I'm not kidding.
Yep.
Really do a lot of stuff with it. Okay. Thanks, David. Appreciate the kind words there. I guess we're going to get out of here. We've been on here way longer, and I knew it was going to be a long show when I brought out 2 waters. So,
yeah, I'm on 2 cans of Diet Coke already.
yeah. But thanks everybody for hanging around watching tonight. Like I said, we'll get back to Neil, kind of, sort of. I'm still not real happy with them right now. It kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. So, yeah. G-Code Design, Juan.
Holy cow.
House. Where you
He cut
been,
the tail end.
Where you been?
How's it going, Juan?
Got Michael Bowling, Sod Slinger. I don't even. Oh, Sean Draper, Sod Slinger. All right, Mike Lindsay, Juan Lopez, Todd H. CNC. Had a good crowd over tonight. Lots of great questions. I tell you what, this, you know, I've got some guests coming next week. One of them was out there. I know Carlo and Rebecca. They're gonna be my guests next week. So come back and watch them. The following week will be the weekend of the show, and I'm going to try to do a show. It may not start on time. I don't know when I can get back, but I'm going to try to do a better job of taking pictures, and maybe I bought this new little camera. I'm going to try to take the camera and get some videos. So try to do like kind of a woodworking show wrap up or whatever that Saturday, and I'm going to have a special guest, so you'll have to tune in to see who that is. And of course, there ain't no telling who might follow me home. last year there was folks following me home.
Last time there was what, 5-6 guys.
Yeah, so you never know who might show up. So but yeah, so that'll be the next 2 Saturdays. And I know I said we do the question and answer thing on the first Saturday of the month, but just from the 2 that I've done so far, I can tell that this is probably a lot more popular than having guests and stuff. Not that I don't want to have guests, but you know, if we get any kind of an open Saturday where somebody cancels or I don't have somebody scheduled, we'll just do these question and answer things. And you guys just keep the questions coming. Like I said, I'll try. If you let me know, if I post the link to the show and say we're doing a Q&A, if you'll post, you know, comment on that post and say, well, I'd like to know about, you know, whatever, router bits or, you know, whatever it might be. That way I can get stuff ready ahead of time. So when we come on here, just like if I'd known somebody was going to ask about the rotary axis, I'd have had that out here. And it might have made a little more sense than that little red plastic band thing. But anyway, I guess we're going to get out of here. We're down to a few. Everybody's leaving.
Yeah,
all right, everybody have a great weekend.
Juan was asking me about the headphones. There's a link for you to 3M's site. They're fantastic for deadening the sound and using on Hangouts, but not at the same time, because when that's on, you don't want to be on a Hangout.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, thanks everybody that asked questions. Thanks everybody that came in and hung around and watched with us. I apologize for us running long, but we'd still be here another 30 minutes if Jerry Brown was out there.
Yep.
So anyhow, we're going to get out of here. Everybody have a great weekend. Remember, if you're coming to the Atlanta show, stop by and see me, or make sure you come up and say hello or something, because a lot of you, I might know what you look like. Most of you, I don't, probably. So, and I'm terrible with names anyway. So anyway, come around and hang out. Bobby, thank you so much, buddy.
Anytime, Dave. Anytime.
And I guess we'll see y'all later. Everybody have a great weekend.
Night all.